Pledge allegiance to the flag, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our Board of Supervisors meeting, hoping that you had a good Memorial Day weekend, and honored our service people. I want to say that if any of the attendees were going to be speaking this evening, I'd like you to sign in, please, up here. Also that the township meeting is videotaped. Is there anybody else doing a video or anything else for the meeting? If so, please let me know now. Comments by the audience on any members of on any agenda item will follow completion of the board members' discussion of the topic. Please wait to be recognized by myself, by the chair, then advance to the microphone and clearly identify yourself. Due to the large number of people that are going to be speaking tonight and such, we're going to limit the meeting, limit the comments to 3 to 4 minutes, okay? So try to limit yourself and say, and also, if you hear something said by another person, I'm going to go through everybody first, then I will come back to you, because everybody's got to have a chance. We don't want people to come up duplicate, because they've heard what somebody says. So let's try to be fair about the people and what they're going to. So, proposed agenda items, as most of you know, must be submitted to our township manager no later than 12 noon on the Wednesday preceding the given board meeting. Late submissions will not be placed on the current agenda, and I think you all can understand that, because if anything comes in that late, how can a board member read it, discuss it, and pass it with any credibility? You've got to understand what you're doing, and that's why you put us in office, so we do understand and we do are enabled to give the right decisions for you. So please understand that. So as such, we'll move on with the meeting. Martha?
I understand we have some Girl Scouts here this evening.
Should bring cookies?
All right.
No need to. No need. No need.
So do you want them to face this way?
They can face us, they're presenting to the board.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys know, but they were doing plant markers.
The girls were working on plant markers for both our rain garden and our butterfly garden. And we had asked them to just use their own creativity, but I did give them the names of the plants that were in our gardens. And they're here to present us with the work that they did.
Okay, go ahead. This is Hannah, so she's going to talk first. Right. Want me to hold the box? Sorry.
Looks heavy.
It's a lot of work.
It's okay. They can hear you, right?
Yeah.
You can.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
These two are sisters, in case you didn't know. Go ahead. Just start. Wait, take 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Anna, and we decided to do the garden markers as a project. And when we heard this project about this project from our troop leader, we thought it would be a perfect opportunity to make something for the community to enjoy. And we also decided to use recycle. Use recycled materials to make it, so it's good for the environment as well.
Great.
Okay, here's Julia. She's going to tell you what they did.
We took branches and put them down, used a power saw to cut them, and put design on them.
The labels, yeah. Okay, then Harper is going to.
We thought it would be an easy project, but it took way longer than we thought because we had to. What? We had to put a lot of coats of polyurethane on them, and my troop leader said it took 10+ hours.
Wow. Awesome.
So, we have some extra labels if you need them. I'm sure we can find some down tree branches for you.
Girls work on a badge for this.
I just said maybe they should get the inside government after being here. Because they're like, what's going on with this?
Thank you. I might add as a postscript, I like all those markers on your wonderful vest too. That shows a lot of service to the community.
These two are moving on, so, to cadets this year, she'll be, Brownie again next year.
Congratulations to all of you.
It's troop 4254 and one drop from troop 410. Go ahead.
Thank you, Anna, Julia, and Harper. You guys did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
They're adorable.
Nice job, young ladies.
We thought it would be real nice and quick. It's
Thank you so much for your help. These are
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Did you guys see?
They're adorable.
Fantastic. Thank you, Fred.
Yes, you're welcome. Very nice. That makes the meeting that much better. We're going to move into now to what the majority of you people are here for, is the sidewalk feasibility study, okay? And I think you're all pretty well aware of that. You've probably seen all the homework that we have on it so far. But folks, Mr. John Rager of Whitman Rayquit Associates, the consultant that was engaged to assist with the sidewalk feasibility study, will be giving a brief overview of the Schuylkill Sidewalk Feasibility Study. Acceptance, now listen up, please listen to what I'm going to say now. Acceptance of the study does not mean that the board is moving ahead with any particular sidewalk segment project within the study. It's just for the feasibility study itself. Please understand that now. In the future, should the Board of Supervisors want to move ahead with a particular sidewalk segment of the project, there will be discussion by you and us of that particular segment as a subsequent public Board of Supervisors meeting. And budgetary considerations. Remember, quote, budgetary considerations. Okay. The discussion could also include possible funding opportunities and budgetary considerations, engineering needs, and construction timelines for that particular segment. These items are not for discussion this evening. After the presentation by Mr. Rieger, the board will have an opportunity to comment and ask questions. Members of the audience will be given time to comment and ask questions after the board. Just a quick reminder that the audience participation at the Board of Supervisors meeting is limited to 3 minutes, okay? Because we have so many people per individual, okay? So I hope we all understand it. Mr. Rieger, it's all yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I appreciate it. As you mentioned, my name is Jeff Rigner. I'm with the firm of Whitman Rayquit and Associates, who was selected by the township to perform this feasibility study. The township received a grant under the Transportation and Community Development Initiative of a group called DVRPC, the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. And as you mentioned, one condition of acceptance of the funds is that the Board of Supervisors adopts the study and notes that it's complete. So the goal of the study was, as expressed by the township, was to connect the existing 17 miles of sidewalk that exists within the township's neighborhoods to each other and to various destinations within the township. The project was driven by an 18-member steering committee, among them supervisors Jim Morrison and Barbara Cohen, township manager Mary Bird, a number of other agency folks, and 11 township residents and business owners. So that ensured that the local folks really guided the entire course of the study from beginning to end. And I'd just like to mention, I've worked with groups like this throughout Pennsylvania and really through large parts of the country. This steering committee was really very good and very engaged, so it made our job a lot easier. So what I'd like to do very briefly in about 5 minutes is talk about the parts of the study that you have in front of you, just so you're aware of them. The first is benefits of sidewalks. There are regional efforts, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Chester County, focus on the importance of walkability. So it has become a big topic nationwide and throughout Pennsylvania. But what really matters here is the benefits that accrue at a local level. So what we did is we asked the steering committee at our first committee meeting to, what are the benefits of sidewalks? Why should you consider pursuing this project? And the things that they told us were really supported by research that we're familiar with on a national basis. To provide better access to destinations. The committee very frequently mentioned Phoenixville and its continued resurgence and the interest in being able to walk to destinations there. A reduced need to drive, which especially among folks with limited incomes is a real benefit, and it can potentially take even a little bit of traffic off of the road. Communities that walk a lot tend to be happier and healthier, research shows. And very importantly, walkable communities tend to have stronger economies and allow you to recruit and retain businesses and employees more easily. And then finally, from a local perspective, it provides links to the Schuylkill Freedom Trail, which is of great importance to the township. So what we found is that success of a study like this requires two parts: public input and technical analysis, and we mentioned both of those in great detail in our study. Public involvement was in the form of 6 meetings of the steering committee that I mentioned previously between March and December of 2015. Minutes of those meetings are in the appendix to the report, as well as review of the draft study that you have in front of you. We held 2 public workshops. The first was on May 21st of last year. 29 people attended. And the second, February 2nd of this year, with an attendance of 37 people, and all the materials from those meetings are in the appendix as well. So from a technical analysis standpoint, we went out and did detailed field review of about 5 miles of potential sidewalk alignments in the eastern portion of the township. We worked very hard to understand how these potential sidewalks would comply with applicable guidelines from PennDOT, federal guidelines from the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, as well as compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. In general, sidewalks that are suggested would be 5 feet wide. It's preferred to have a buffer between the street and the sidewalk for the comfort of pedestrians, but we understand there are areas that are very tight. And in some of those areas, we propose curbs or retaining walls to limit impacts to private property. One thing that I will caution is that this is not final design. This is a feasibility study. So survey and engineering will be required to move forward with any project and determine the exact right-of-way lines and the design details. But there are a number of renderings in the study that show artist conceptions of what the sidewalks may look like. So in summary, this long-term plan could include 14 projects of a total of almost 5 miles of sidewalks, which is nearly a 30% increase over the existing 17 miles of sidewalks in the eastern part of the township. So in conclusion, I'd like to wrap up by saying our experience has indicated there are 5 ingredients for a successful implementation of a project like this. The first is to think long-term. What is suggested in this feasibility study is not a 1, 2, or even 5-year program. It is a very long-term plan should the township choose to implement it. The second is to obtain outside funding. There are many grant programs offered by the state of Pennsylvania and various private entities so that the township pays a small portion of the cost of any of these projects. The third is to work in bite-sized pieces. There's a lot of work here. Start small and build from there. Fourth is to start where there's community support. Every survey that we have received, pro or con, through the course of this study is included in the appendix. 111 pages worth. I'm sure you've read them all.
Yes.
But in all seriousness, please do.
Post-it notes?
Please do, because it's very important to understand everyone's opinion, for or against. But there was about 64% support among the surveys, but that, of course, is not unanimous. There are a lot of folks who are not comfortable with it. So start in a place where there is support and build from there. And then fifth, begin with logical connections to destinations. The borough of Phoenixville was mentioned several times. Business areas, community facilities, to make sure that the sidewalks make sense and make the connections that township residents need. So in conclusion, thank you again. We really appreciate the opportunity
Thank you, Mr.
to work
Ricker.
with the township and the steering committee.
All right, before I get into some of my colleagues, I won't have a chance, but I have one or two comments I would like to make. First of all, we have, in this community here, if we wanted to have sidewalks, we move into the borough. We're a rural community. And if we're going to stay rural, let's stay rural, or don't we? Do we have to worry about the safety of our children? Yes, we do. Very important, very important. And then it's the cost. I'm entertaining an effort because I'm seeing maybe a 55, 45 for and against, whether it should be, which I'm going to be talking to my solicitor about, and I've already talked to my township manager on a referendum handbook, whether we should put on the ballot as a referendum so everybody would have a chance to let us know what is, so to push it through. I feel that's the best thing to do. However, we'll see as the thing moves down. But anyhow, we got to worry about the cost. We worry about what you want and look at it judiciously, fairly, and objectively. Okay? All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
As chair of the steering committee, and Barbara here participated as, I believe, co-chair, we tried to involve all the committee members at every step along the way. And I think what we ended up with is a good product. We did have to do some review of the drafts and make some corrections here and there. But I think the end product, I think you'll find is quite clean, nicely formatted, grammatical, etc. Having said all that, I'd like to add a few comments in here. The 64% figure that Jeff quoted, which is an average of 3 so-called surveys. They're not all equivalent, and by no means scientific, but it's a rough approximation, I think, of the residents' attitude for sidewalks as opposed to being against them. That number is just 1 percentage point away from the voter approval of our open space program, which is 63%. And that's an interesting number in of itself, because the year that we had that referendum, the township next door, East Pikeland, had the same referendum and came out with the same approval percentage, which is rather amazing. So anyway, it sort of solidifies a little bit that number. There were 3 surveys done, if you will, in quotes once again. One was the workshop comments, which really consisted of people coming in at pretty much at random, knowing about the briefings that were going to be going on. So that was one survey. The second was the residents primarily of North Whitehorse and Cleona, the northern part of Cleona, who did another survey, and we combined those 2 things together as one thing. And then finally, the steering committee did a survey where we wanted to, instead of focusing on the areas where the sidewalks would be installed, we focused on sidewalks where are areas where users of those sidewalks live, as opposed to having sidewalks run in front of their house. So those are the three types of surveys. One of the things I think is really important here is that in the steering committee survey, we ask people, what do they do for exercise? And lo and behold, slightly over 70%, 71% responded that they were walkers. They walked here, they walked there, and of course there was some percentage, which is much smaller, who were joggers. But that 70% is also not much different than other polls that have been done elsewhere in other locations. So I just wanted to point that out. One final point I'd like to make is the Board of Supervisors has some basic responsibilities to our residents, okay? And I just read section 607 of the second-class township code because it's instructive. Duties of supervisors. The Board of Supervisors shall be charged with the general governance of the township and the execution of legislative, executive, and administrative powers in order to ensure sound fiscal management and to secure the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the township. The health and safety aspect here, I think, really is pertinent to the availability of sidewalks. So I think, having said that, I'll turn it back over to my colleagues and Fred.
Okay, I refute a little bit what you said, but that's okay. Let's go on with the comments from the other people.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank you for all your efforts for the township. So that all of you know, we've had a very competitive process in selecting the consultant to conduct the feasibility study. And you really did a terrific job in trying to take a comprehensive, objective approach in terms of how this feasibility study progressed. And I'd also like to thank Jim for having written the grant. Fred, with all due respect, and you know I respect and like you very much, but having lived here for 42 years, I can tell you we are no longer a rural township. We are growing.
That's to you. That's not to our taxpayers. That's what you think. Let's find
Exactly.
out what the taxpayers think, not just an individual.
That's fine. That's my turn, and I'm sharing that with everyone because I do believe that the way in which life is occurring now, there's a whole new population, and people are more active in terms of what they are doing and how they are doing. We'll get into that later in the meeting, but having attended a multimodal legislative forum sponsored by the Chester County Planning Commission a few weeks ago, one of the key things that they talked about was sidewalks and trails being very positive aspects, not only of health and safety, but also they cited the business community in Malvern, where there is a public bus stop, and guess what? No sidewalks. So Chester County is going to add them as part of its comprehensive plan. And so is it feasible in all aspects? Maybe not, considering the cost of what these might be. But as our consultant pointed out, this is a feasibility study. We have a responsibility to, I believe, accept the work that you did so assiduously for us, and then proceed to figure out where and how we might get funding for which segment, which has the most consensus and makes the most sense in a way that is positive for all of you. Thank you.
Fine, thank you. Martha?
Well, I just actually have two comments to make on this. And one of them was something that you said very briefly. If we don't accept this study, we don't get reimbursed for the study fees. That's $70,000.
Right.
I understand.
That's where I'm voting
Okay.
yes.
I mean, I just, I really would like to make that clear, that not accepting the study, we're out $70,000. Okay? Yes, that is a lot of money. And we got that as grant money. So I want to make that very clear. The other thing I'd like to make very clear is accepting the study does not mean that anything's going to be built or even started tomorrow. There is absolutely nothing in our budget that says we're gonna start digging ground on this tomorrow.
That's right.
So, thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I'm following Martha. Because I quickly just, I mean, I know you did a great study, and I know you put everything in there, and the kitchen sink, and there's still engineering. I'm up to $11,110,000.
It's a lot of money.
It
It's
is a lot
huge.
of money.
And no offense.
And what makes sense where?
But just as a caveat on that, that's for 14 segments in the system, so.
That's-
you know,
that's-
it's-
Yeah, I
That's
know,
without
Jim.
even
We
engineering.
all read that. We all read that. We all understand that.
Yeah.
Well, I think the study was excellent. There's no question about it. In fact, I expressed that to him outside
It's
instead of
great
having to do it in
feasibility
public.
study.
However, I also see some glitches in it, too. There's quite a bit of fiction in it. I think there had to be some changes of write-ups the way Anderson Road is going to be done, Pot House and Ferry Lane, Cleona. I have some changes that would have to be made to smooth out this report, but that's enough for that. But I would like to now open it up to anybody that wants to comment on. All right, no comments. I would like to,
I think their comments, people just a little slow to get up.
ma'am, nobody had raised their hand or come forward. Okay, come in.
I didn't sign in yet, but I will do in a moment.
Sure.
Phil Mattia, 35 Cleona Avenue. Been here several times. Happy belated Memorial Day. Thank you for the study. I was here for both events when you had the show of what you've done. I have a couple of questions about the feasibility study. I understand that it's $70,000. We don't take it. I completely agree with that. It doesn't make sense to not do that. But regarding the study, the surveys that were done, the one that you guys went out in Anderson, that was done by the committee?
Right, there's 4 of us, we had basically a subcommittee.
Okay. And the other studies that were done, who commissioned them to go out and do that?
Well, the first one was basically the result of comments from the workshops.
Okay, so that was
we're calling that
solicited
full
under your
study.
supervision?
Yeah, and the next one, done by Ms. Glass and Mr. Sihula, we sort of lumped together. They went down the streets where essentially the sidewalks were going to be built, and they asked opinions of the landowners about that.
I would like to bring into question those surveys. I mean, anybody can go down the street and ask any questions they want. You at
Sure.
least had some oversight on what you did. You had people that came here with a dedicated purpose to see what was going on, and you went out to people that were going to use the sidewalks. So that 64%, I think, is way conservative. Could be inflated. I don't know. Regarding Cleona, potentially for me, as I've told you many times, thank you for the stop signs. They're working out very well. Thank you. But just for my children, you brought up before, safety. That's the number one thing. So is safety going to outbid the cost of some of these things? That's the ultimate question for me. I'd like my kids to be able to walk to school. I'd like them to be able to get easier access to the YMCA. I'd like them to be able to get across to go down to the Dogwood Festival down at Reeves Park without issue. Currently, they can't do that. It's extremely dangerous. So for those points, and I know we're not deciding tonight, I completely agree, we're not saying let's go out and all get shovels or not get shovels and protest, but those are the points that I'd like to bring up. And I speak for some of the younger crew on Cleona Avenue when I say we were definitely for them. I know there are some of my neighbors up the street that are not for them, and I completely understand the perspective. But I agree with your point, and again, my opinion, Mr. Perry, that we are different than a rural community. We are moving to a suburban community that's connected to a lot of different businesses and activities. But ultimately for me, it just comes down to safety. I see people walking down Cleona all the time. It's a narrow road. Somebody's bound to get hit.
No question. Okay, thank you very much. Next, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bob Kahn, and I live on 125 Shelter Lane. I didn't sign in. Thanks for organizing this. I agree with Kevin. I looked at that price tag and I got sticker shock. So then I move on to how many people do we talk to? And Fred's comment about having a referendum, if we're really serious about that size money, I don't see how we do this without a referendum. To Martha's point, I don't know what accepting or not accepting this means. If it doesn't force our hand in any way at all, I don't want to spend $70,000 that we have in pocket and then take it out of the township funds.
Right.
But if it forces us some way towards an $11 million price tag, you know, I assume we're good there. And I'm not really sure, you know, who participated in this survey, what percentage of the township participated in it. You know, was it 90% or was it 10% or something in between? If, you know, you got to get close to 80% of the township or some higher number, at least above 50, before I have any confidence in that 63%.
And I'm on the same page you are. I mean, if you're where they want to put the sidewalks is only covers a portion of the township, you still have the whole mountain, you still have the whole backside where Valley Forge Woods is. And what you want to do is you want to raise taxes or put a referendum in to pay for sidewalks over here where they're not including everybody in the whole survey. Which I recommend they do, is you go do a survey of the whole township and say, if majority comes back and say we want the sidewalks, because the majority of people are going to be paying for it. It's going to benefit a few, but the majority is going to paying for it.
True.
And the majority's been paying for a lot recently.
Well, no, indeed, and
Yeah.
trailheads we have where people can park and get access to the trail. I don't know if that makes sense for sidewalks, and I don't know if you can ride bicycles on the sidewalks. And
We don't want to get into that right
Yeah.
now.
okay, well, Fred, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Let me, Fred, let me just respond on the financing question or statement here. First of all, there's a working number that we've learned from the consultants that is a not unusual percentage of funds that would be basically paying for the grant, paying for the sidewalks through a grant. And this could be 60%, this could be 70%, this could be 80%. It depends on the grant. Depends on the grant. Okay, so there's more than 50% of the cost for sure is funded through grants, and Jeff might be able to you know, add to that. The other thing here is that assuming that that's the case, then the township is you know, got to fund the rest of the percentage, whatever that is, whether it's just one segment, 2 segments, 3 segments. But as it turns out, if we take the mortgage approach on this, we could do like 2 or 3 or 4 segments at a time, borrow money over let's say a 15-year period,
No
and not have to raise taxes.
We're not
Can
borrowing
I-
money. We're
No,
not putting the township
no.
in debt.
I'd like to.
Over sidewalks.
No,
Let me-
no
let me-
way.
Let me follow up. I think none of us
Hang on,
raising
hang on.
taxes to have this. And the point is, I went to the city of Reading for 5 years, from 1990 to 1995. One of 3 representing Chester County in planning the Schuylkill River Trail. A trail near Pottsville or Reading might be said not to benefit our area at all. But now, okay, 20 years later, 60 miles of this trail has been built, and the rest is slated to be built. This benefits all of us. We all pay taxes in Pennsylvania, and this is on the state's
But
budget.
we're not here to talk about
I know,
trails, we're
Fred,
talking
just let me
about
finish.
sidewalks.
I want to just make a relevant comparison.
Yeah,
The
but you're-
point is that sidewalks, wherever they might be, add to the value of a particular property if it is sold. And the point that we're talking about is merely accepting a feasibility study at this point in time. I can understand some of the issues that are being raised, and whether all places are really worth the cost of doing it and moving X amount of utility poles or rights of way or retaining walls. Some things in some places might be too costly to actually get done. But the point is, we have had a thorough investigation. And I think we need to keep that part in context and look at the big picture. Just because I live in a place where I don't have a sidewalk doesn't mean I'm not in favor of having others being able to walk from Cleona to the Dogwood Festival.
But
Fred,
the people out here also don't understand that if we vote, bring in these sidewalks, and so we're going to have to add to our organizational structure within the township, which is going to cost us money. Maybe more in a road department, maybe a park and recreation commission, which we don't have right now, people to do that, for maintenance and such. There's a lot of things to think about in the monies that are going to be involved, that are going to be pushed off on the tax, that are going to be in our budgetary process. And we haven't raised taxes, which you know, in 7 years. And I think it's very serious that we try to keep it that way too. But do I believe in growth? You're damn right I do. Do I believe in creativity? You're daggone right I do. But I also don't want to watch the cost for the taxpayers too. So I think that's where we're at.
Fred.
Who's going to be
Fred,
next speaker?
Fred, I have one comment. I
Sure.
actually wanted to answer a question that Bob had asked. He had said, I think you had asked, what's the consequences if we accept this or if we don't accept this? The only consequences of not accepting it is that we would lose $70,000. The consequences of accepting it or whatever, there really is nothing.
Exactly.
We don't have to follow through with it. We don't have to do anything. We can if we like. We can wait 10 years. We can wait till next year, or we can never do anything about it. It doesn't matter. There is nothing to accepting it.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, just one quick comment. The disappointing thing.
Please state your
Oh,
name. You
sorry.
haven't signed in.
I'm so sorry. I will sign in afterward. I'm
Go
Lori
ahead.
Williams. I used to be a supervisor, as you know, Fred. The disappointing thing is so many of us came in February and gave comments, and the map is identical. And it should connect to the borough, and it should show the trails. The trails are an important feature that we should actually connect. And so I'm sort of disappointed the study doesn't connect the actual Schuylkill River Trail Barbara Cohen just talked about. But thank you, Fred and Kevin and Martha, for your fiscal conservatism.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Billy Tress, and I live on Ferry Lane. And I would take umbrage with the fact that we've had conversations with people who might be affected. Someone mentioned Ferry Lane. No one has spoken to anyone in Ferry Lane, to my knowledge.
Yes, they have.
Certainly has not
Yes, they have.
spoken to us, and we
I
are
have.
here.
I have.
My husband and I are home all the time. So I would take umbrage with that. I think that it is presumptuous to think that you have the uniform agreement of people that you have not even spoken to. And I would ask that that be kept in everyone's mind as we go through this process. If we're really talking about safety, there's a lot you could do with Ferry Lane, but that sidewalks are way down on
Ma'am,
the
if you look
priority
at this,
list.
here's the drawing of Ferry Lane that I had made for checking out your aspect of Ferry Lane. So someone has
Can
looked
we
at
get a
it.
copy of that?
Sure, you can get a copy.
Sure. I would like to see
But
that because.
It has been looked at.
Because as far as I'm concerned, sidewalks are way down on the priority list.
You betcha.
When it comes to speeding along there, when it comes to fixing the curve on Ferry Lane, you can talk to the police. 3 times in the past year, I've had cars wind up in my front lawn because they come around the corner and take it too fast. So there's a lot that can be done to ensure sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, who's next? Anybody else? So we got to move on with the meeting.
Someone has his hands up, Brad.
Yes, sir.
You're next.
Thank you.
Jeff Tress on Cleona Avenue. In regards to our neighbor, the kid, I don't know where you're located on Cleona, but I, being here for several discussions, and with Jim as well, down around 23 and crossing over into Phoenixville is very, very dangerous. Traffic is low on Cleona. A lot of people walk on Cleona. your statistics on whether people have been hit, you would have to go way back in time, okay? People enjoy walking there. The other thing to take into account, and I had a discussion with him as well, Cleona is not supported by curbs. It's supported by very few storm drains, a lot of extra money, okay? That, one other comment is that virtually, and I observe all our neighbors up and down Cleona, on the western side, we're very, very tight, very, very tight. People would literally be walking by your dining room and your living room as you're sitting in there, okay? Not very feasible in my opinion. And I can't speak for my neighbors on the other side, but it takes up a lot of room. So, you know, we're vehemently opposed, I think in the majority on Cleona, so I speak for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. McCrory?
Peter Mercury, Pickering Glen. For one that's been blessed with a lot of open space, how much space will these 5-mile sidewalks, how much will that take up? And secondly, I'd be concerned about the cost. The township pays a small portion. If what you're discussing, a couple $1 million?
11.
$11 million, a small portion, 10%, what is that? I mean, that's a couple $1 million, whatever it is. I did, off the top of my head.
Sure.
Right? That's a lot of money the township's going to have to spend.
No kidding.
Okay? And also, who's going to maintain that? That's another thing.
We know
Cost of
that.
maintaining it. Usually it
That's what
comes
I
down to the
mentioned.
property owner, right? Which we found out in Pickering Glen. Snow removal. Just those things. I mean, plus you should listen to the people if they really want it, that will be affected. I think that's one thing that a lot of time is forgotten, is the people that are affected. Why not give them a survey if you haven't already done
Sure,
that?
thank you. I think some of us have listened to you, okay? There's no question about that. Is there anybody else that, because we need to summarize it and move on with the meeting. Yes, sir.
My name's Tom Wand. I live at 31 Cleona. I was a member of the committee, and there's a fair amount of work that went into this study. So I would assert that it's not only for the money that you ought to approve it, but because it's done a good job of looking at the whole question. It's really unclear whether any portion of this is going to be a good idea and when. As you've heard, on my own street, we have some very heartfelt and differing viewpoints, okay? This is not the only issue that comes before you for which that is true. I do believe, however, that it is not a matter that rises to the level of interest in the entire township, that any form of referendum would really get you the information you want. More than 50% of the registered voters in this township will not take part in deciding who's the next president of the United States. The idea that we will get meaningful information about building sidewalks, particularly from those in the areas that are not directly affected, I think is highly unlikely. So I would urge the Board of Supervisors, sort of speaking contrary to some of the thoughts you, Chairman Perry, and you, Supervisor Hanforth, have indicated, that this should be sort of sloughed off to a referendum. I think you have been elected to make this decision, and I would urge that as this process goes forward, you continue to do that. Thank you.
Sir,
Thank you.
let me answer yours. You didn't have more than 1% of people that actually answered this resume. And 1% of all our taxpayers, if that's what you're going to say, raise taxes on, that amount of money, that is absurd. Whether you say push it off, leave it to us, I want to see what the taxpayers want, not just us. I think there's a lot more to it than just having my colleagues go and say, okay? I'm sorry, sir. I hear you, I'm listening to you, and we can take into consideration, and I'm sure everyone here is listening to it and understands you. But that's why we're here today, and that's why we're going to try to pass the resolution for it.
Fred, can I make one more comment?
Please do.
I'm not sure if everyone really truly understands this. Our yearly budget is a little over $5 million. It's about $6 million. We're talking about an $11 million project.
We're not doing it all at once.
We're not doing it all at once. We can't do it all at once, and we're not going to do it
What's
quickly.
not feasible to do.
So if we choose to move forward with this, so, I mean, it's just something that, when you're talking about $11 million, I understand when you say that a referendum isn't appropriate, but you know what? $11 million, I think it might be. It's a lot of money. You know, that's over almost 3 years' budget, or it's just under 3 years' budget for us. Full year's budget.
Just to respond,
Wait.
if I could, to that.
Sure, Jim.
Nobody that I've been talking with or heard from, is talking about doing this all at once.
Exactly.
Right? That's number one. Number two, this is all about setting priorities as to what should be done first, second, third, et cetera. And the second, third, et cetera, could be 5 years from now, okay, or 10 years from now. It is possible with the high percentage of grant funding that we anticipate getting based on reality, that we could treat the expenditure of a relatively small amount of funds, less than $1 million, let's say. We could treat that as a mortgage and borrow. Now, other townships, other municipalities have gone into reasonable debt, and as long as the funds are there to pay that off, which I submit there are. If you borrow $1 million, I've done the calculation. If you borrow $1 million to fund X number of sidewalk segments, which isn't very many, roughly that would be, if you borrowed that money over 15 years, and we're paying 3% interest, that annual payment would be roughly $80,000 to $90,000. Okay, we have a $6 million budget. Therefore, it's not unreasonable to think that we could shift a little here and shift a little there and make room for that 80,000, if you will, you know, fund it without a tax increase. So this talk of increasing taxes is misplaced.
So this talk of putting the township in the debt is
I'd like to
misplaced.
refute that if I could as well.
It's insane. We have no debt. We're not in debt.
Exactly.
We're not going to put the township
Exactly.
in debt over sidewalks.
And I'd like to also, may I?
I got
Okay.
three.
Go,
Can I have my turn?
yes.
Thank you. What I'd like to say is this: I would not approve of going into debt to create the sidewalk, even if it were truly feasible. I'm not even going to give an amount. But we do have flexibility as a municipality in the state of Pennsylvania. Vis-a-vis, we have a very small percentage of less than 1% that goes to open space, dedicated funding. However, we have a significant amount of funding in the open space fund. The legislature has determined that municipalities may use open space funds for recreation. So if we want to make improvements to Valley Park or build one stretch of sidewalk where we deem it most feasible, we have the flexibility to do that. And that's all. But right now, we're talking hypotheses down the road that really, I'm seeing a degree of people being upset right now where they shouldn't be. We're talking about a study that was conducted in a timely and inclusive fashion. And we're hearing a lot of different comments, which is a healthy thing to do. But, I mean, hysteria over spending money or raising taxes is way too premature.
Okay. I would like to read the,
Peter,
Mr. Khan.
Yeah.
Barbara, I respect a lot of what you have to say, but thinking about using open space money to do 5 miles of, concrete, it just isn't something that is consistent with what we're trying to do with open space funds.
Okay, fine. All right, hang on. Wait just a minute, Bob. I want to summarize this.
I'm Bob Mount, Chairman of the Open Space Commission. And the bias in the Open Space Commission is toward preserving open space. And every dollar of open space funds that isn't spent on preserving open space is open space that won't be otherwise preserved. I want to make that comment. The other comment I wanted to make is to speak to Fred's idea of a referendum. In 2006, we had an open space referendum. It was an off-year election, an off-year election. I think this last off-year election was like, what, 20% of the voters came out? Well, in the off-year election for the open space referendum, 62.3% of the voters came out and voted. 62.3% of the total number of voters.
Of the 20%.
Well, tell me, how many voters did we have at that time? 5,000?
I think that's about right.
No, we have more than that.
It's about 6,000 now.
6,000 times 0.6 is 3,000.
No way in a non-presidential year.
Okay, come on, we don't want to get into
All right,
dialogue
but
now.
the point is, if there's a sidewalk referendum, and if our community is passionate about having sidewalks installed, they'll come out and vote.
That's right, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying, that's why I'm,
So, you could get 60% of the voters out voting if they want the sidewalks.
I understand.
All right,
Thank you,
just wanna
Bob.
make that
Mr. McCrory, please sum it up.
If you have all this money left in open space fund, why not give it back to the people? Because we were taxed on that, and that's how you raise that money. And, no? I'm not correct? Okay. And, secondly, the taxpayers do matter. We're the ones that are footing the
You
bill.
bet you do. Okay, thank you. Everybody, colleagues, I would like to read Resolution 2016-19, a resolution of Schuylkill Township Board of Supervisors to accept the final draft of the Schuylkill Sidewalk Feasibility Study and associated appendices dated May 26, 2016. Whereas the Schuylkill Township Sidewalk Feasibility Study was funded by the Transportation and Community Development Initiative and grant through the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission with a match from the township, and whereas the Schuylkill Township has few existing sidewalks to local destinations, which often makes non-vehicular access to these destinations difficult and unsafe, and whereas the purpose of the study is to evaluate the potential sidewalk facilities that will expand the existing pedestrian infrastructure with the ultimate goal of creating a more walkable and accessible township. And whereas enhancing walkability supports the township goals of providing residents the access to the borough of Phoenixville, as well as internally within Schuylkill Township, and whereas an expanded and connected sidewalk network has the potential to transform the function of the township's roadways from solely vehicular transportation and utility corridors to key elements in its vision to become a more workable community, and whereas improving pedestrian accessibility within the township will meet a number of county and state goals as Pennsylvania state agencies consistently recognize the importance of walkability and evaluate it in the allocation of state investments, and whereas the Chester County Planning Commission is now emphasizing walkability for county municipalities in its new multi-module circulation handbook, which includes recommendations for sidewalks and provides access to shopping centers, medical facilities, schools, commercial districts, and important destinations. Therefore, the Schuylkill Township Board of Supervisors understands the need to make the Schuylkill Township a more walkable community, and it does hereby accept the final draft of the sidewalk feasibility study dated May 26, 2016, this first day of June 2016. Do I hear a motion?
I move to accept the feasibility study.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and it's seconded. We've had discussion. I call for the order. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. There it is.
Mary, I actually have a question. It says the Chester County Planning Commission, I know that they're doing their multimodal study.
Thank you.
Will they get a copy of this as well? Okay, good, thank you.
All right, I would like to take a 2-minute recess, so if anybody wants to leave, they can. Okay. Back in order again, please. Call the Board of Supervisors meeting back into active order again. I would like to get approval of a number of items first. The Board of Supervisor minutes of May 5th. First of all, I have one question. Barbara, there was a motion made that, seconded by Mr. Morrison and passed, that you were going to enter into discussions with the parcel C landowner. Have you done that?
That is correct.
Okay, and have you done that?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Just sure.
Do you want a motion to approve the minutes, Fred?
In just a minute, yes.
Sure.
All right, the minutes, acceptance of reports too. All department, committee, and commission reports, council reports is posted and received by the Board of Supervisors. The combination of the two. Do I have a motion to accept these?
So move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So moved. Any 2-minute reports?
I have one from the regional planning meeting.
I hope so.
Okay. Carol Stauffer, who is on the Chester County Planning Commission, she has also been named as the Director of Infrastructure and Pipelines for Chester County. And it's much more important and complicated than it sounds. She gave a marvelous presentation to our regional planning. And I promise to talk fast, Fred. But Chester County has 600 miles of pipelines, some of them dating back to 1930. FERC, F-E-R-C, it's a new acronym we all need to learn. Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, this controls the gas pipelines. And there's no formal process for selecting the routes of the pipelines, but a public utility does have eminent domain rights for decision making. Carol, as I said, is Chester County's Director of Infrastructure. She is a neutral party in decision making. So she would interact and facilitate meetings with pipeline operators, municipalities, elected officials, and most important for all of you, residents and landowners. Okay, so there is a real person in charge of figuring out where a pipeline might be going. There's a pipeline information center and a website that explains projects and pipelines. And finally, there is a national pipeline mapping system that is designed for public use. There are a bunch of these brochures, I believe they're still out there, that she had left here at the township. So feel free to, the website is extremely well designed, and it really does show where the pipelines are located.
Are there any pipelines going to be put through Schuylkill Township?
I'm sorry?
Are there any pipelines?
Very much so. In fact, 2 years ago, Carol came along with representatives of the Safety Commission. In one of our free meetings that we have at the country club, they gave an excellent presentation. Goes across where you see, I think it's yellow for gas, blue for water. I'm not sure I've memorized all the colors.
These
Pardon
are
me?
current or future?
Current.
Okay, are
Yeah.
there any future plans for more gas lines in the
There
township?
may very well be, but the question is where and how. And she wanted to let all of us know in our regional planning group that we have access to the website so you can track whichever pipeline you would like.
Let me try to answer Fred's question here. The Transco Williams, I think that's the
Yes.
term.
They came-
Years ago, known as the Transco pipeline, which basically starts in Texas and goes all the way through New Jersey and north. All right, but in the process comes through Pennsylvania and specifically Schuylkill Township, from Charlestown Township through Valley Forge Woods, across Country Club Road, through Sunwood Farm, across Route 23, and
Lower Providence
the
Township.
Credence Foundation property, I think, is involved here, and then the pipeline does a dip under the Schuylkill and goes God knows where else. Okay, but so we do have a interstate pipeline that comes through our township. And, you know, I asked the question a couple of times, are there any plans for Transco to expand
Right.
this? And she couldn't give me a definite answer. And I asked that in the context of the right-of-way for the pipeline, which is apparently wider than is being currently used.
Thank you, Jim. That is what I wanted to hear. Okay. Now, one of the most important parts of our meeting, the treasurer will go over the payment of the bills. Martha?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Fred, I just.
Treasurer's report?
As of May 31st of 2016, we have a balance of just over $4.1 million in our general fund. I did review all of our bills earlier today. Everything is in order and everything can be paid. I know each of you received a list of all the bills that were going to be paid. Did any of you have any questions? I know you also received a report of all of our revenues and our expenditures, and everything is in order and right where it should be.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. I have a few announcements to make. There's a presentation of the Underground Railroad and the Friends meeting in the Schuylkill Township will be given at 7:30 on Thursday, June 9th at the Phoenixville Country Club. Please join us and take a look at our community's rich history and where we've come from. Anyone else on that? Okay. And the Open Space Commission meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 14th at 7:30 p.m. in the Township Hall. On June 18th, the electronics recycling event sponsored by Schuylkill Township, East Pikeland, Charlestown, Phoenixville Borough will be held at the Phoenixville High School parking lot from 9 to 1. 9 to 1 for an electronics recycling event. And a household hazardous waste collection event is scheduled for Friday, June 24th at the Coatesville Learning Center from 9 to 3. No electronics. Okay? And I'm sure you all know this, that the Route 29 State Road and Pothouse Road lane closures from June 1st to June 17th. June 1st to June 17th. Okay? Make sure you all have that. Okay.
Hey, Mary, I have a question about the electronics event. I know I've usually volunteered for the Shredder event. Do you need volunteers for this?
No, it's all being handled by E-Force.
I knew you had said that you were going to confirm that, but I didn't.
Yeah, if you want to come out and just watch how it works, that's great. But they're taking care of all of it for us.
Okay, good. Okay.
And
Thank you.
just as a PS in terms of what Fred said about the Historic Commission sponsored event next Thursday night, Schuylkill Township was a major path to freedom. There actually is a tunnel from the Friends Meeting House to White House Farm. And the township was very supportive of the abolitionist movement, and the gentleman who was speaking is an expert on a lot of these matters, and an historian from Swarthmore College. So it should be a very interesting presentation with a lot of relevance for Schuylkill Township and specifically. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Old business, legal matters, Bill?
Thank you, Fred. There are a number of open space development zoning matters pending, but there's nothing for reporting.
All right, we'll move on. Is there any more old business? Okay, we'll move on to new business then. There's no matters to discuss, but we'll go into resolutions and ordinances. Public hearing must be held prior to any vote to adopt a zoning or saldo ordinance. A motion to approve Resolution 2016 adopting the 2015 Chester County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Excuse me, Fred, do we have to formally open a hearing here?
No. This is
No.
a resolution, not an ordinance.
Okay.
I make that motion.
Okay, and I'll second it, but I actually have a question for Kevin on this. The notes that we got from Fred Honigman,
Yeah, I was looking at
it was a
that.
bit vague.
Very.
Okay,
I can call Fred on it.
okay. I mean, this sounds like a great thing to do, but it seems to be we're voting on something that we have very vague information on. Do you have any other insight, I guess is what I'm asking, you know, for us to
From
move
Fred,
forward with this?
I mean, it's, what it is basically if, the way it was explained to me from Fred when I talked to him about it, was if something big with hazard happened and we didn't have this, we couldn't get, from my understanding, FEMA funding.
Yes.
So we would need to pass this resolution, so if, how do I explain it? Hopefully, knock on wood, the railroad train derails, and it has chemicals on it, and it sprays a chemical, and somehow it kills all the ground and kills everything, and we need FEMA funding and money for it. Because we didn't have this resolution, we wouldn't be able to get that funding from hazardous materials.
But even if the
Mitigation.
accident happened in Schuylkill Township, or is this if like that accident were to happen in Phoenixville, but it affected Schuylkill Township? Is that what you're saying?
Well, this is if it happened in the township, but normally if you have it, what happens is, from my understanding is if, once you have it, but I believe, I'm not even sure if the borough hasn't approved it either.
No, but,
Yeah.
but I guess the point that I'm making is if something catastrophic like that were to happen within our township, I think we would be subject to getting funds like that, whether we adopt this or not. The way I read it was that if an accident happened in a neighboring township and we were affected, that we wouldn't get any funding if we didn't approve this. Am I
That's the way I
assuming that?
understood it too.
Is that how,
I
I
didn't
mean,
read that.
is that the understanding?
I didn't read that in there.
FEMA, Pennsylvania or the federal, is looking to have these type of resolutions passed for any type of funding, even
Right.
when we went for the snow disaster in
Mhm.
January. So we did not have this, but we were able to go ahead with getting money for the snow, the January blizzard.
Yeah, okay.
So
I see it as
this-
a positive
This is
thing.
more,
Yeah.
this is almost
Don't
a
you?
money
Okay,
thing to make sure that we have this in
Okay.
place when we go for
okay.
disaster.
I just
funds.
wanted some more clarification because it just seemed very vague to me, the information that we
No,
received.
I agree.
I'm not
Fine.
saying anything's bad, I just wanted to get some clarity there.
Yeah,
I've got a question here for Mary. I thought that we had a certain procedure, like getting educated in emergency management, that we take certain courses online, which would then set us up for qualifying for emergency funds.
That's part of it, yes.
Yeah.
That's part
So
of it.
that's really, I think, where we are at this point, right? But this resolution will be a blanket over that.
It's a blanket over that, and yes, the supervisor should be taking those
Yep.
courses, most of which, if not all of them, are online.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, hear a motion?
Make the motion.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. A motion to approve Resolution 2016-18, revising the fee for false alarms for residential and business alarm devices.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Well, I think everyone should know, the alarm fees for false alarm, first, third incident, no fee, fourth and fifth incident, $125 each incident, sixth and seventh incident, $250 each incident, and 4, 8 and up, $500 each incident. We had a motion, it's been seconded, all in
I just
favor?
had one quick question.
Okay.
If somebody's alarm system is faulty, will they be penalized if it happens more than once, then it seems?
No,
Yeah.
once,
No.
if it happens more than 3 times, first through third is nothing.
Okay.
The 4th time,
First through third, that's
Yeah.
fine.
shame on you once, shame on us twice.
Exactly.
You go to number 4, you're starting to get fined.
Very good.
We
Okay.
have a resident whose alarm's gone off 10 times.
You're kidding, and
No.
they haven't gotten it fixed? Not like,
Not that I know of.
that's where this came
Yeah,
from, right?
yeah. So,
Okay.
Fred, just a little clarification here. We have an ordinance which has these numbers already in it, and what the purpose of this resolution is to marry up our fee schedule with our ordinance, which we're
Yeah, it's chapter 90.
at odds. Yep.
Yeah, chapter 90.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The motion to adopt, only to accept the amendment to the Code of Schuylkill Township, Chester County, Chapter 340, Vehicles and Traffic, is adopted on January 2017 as amended. Now therefore it is enacted to do by the Board of Supervisors of Schuylkill Township, Chapter 340, Vehicles and Traffic, amended as follows. The traffic and parking on Livingston Street and Wilmer Avenue.
make that motion.
I'll second.
Don't we get a hearing? I said you sent me a letter to come here. Send me a letter to come here. We're here.
All right.
Now, we can have a discussion.
That'd be great, because we're residents of,
All right, the motion's been made and it's been seconded. Do you have any comments on it before we vote? Okay.
I am Francis Dungy. I live at 1216 Wilmer Road. I noticed that we do have a problem with our neighbors, the bar down the street. Well, not with them, it's their patrons. I live there, 2 other residents on Wilmer, on my side of the street. We don't want the signs. I was told that somebody came here and said that they notified all of us. Well, I wasn't notified until I got this letter. I don't think we should have the no parking signs on, okay, ours is actually the south side of Wilmer. The church does need them on that little cul-de-sac or little island that they have, because they shouldn't be able to park there because it is blocking road. You can't even visualize going up and down either road. But on our side of the street, I don't think we need them.
Okay, thank you. Sir?
My name is Neil Martin. I live at 1214 Wilmer. I've been living there since 1990. I've been parking in front of my house for 26 years because someone else in the neighborhood doesn't like the cars that are at the bar around the corner that's not that close to my house. Why should I be penalized? There are houses on Rutledge Avenue and Edwin Drive that are closer to the bar that have a parking problem as well. How come they're not included in this? Why should I be penalized when the entire neighborhood is not? I've been parking there for 26 years.
Thank you. Okay. Hang on. Yes, ma'am.
My name is
Go ahead.
Rosemary Long, and I live on Livingston Road. Our road, as I explained to you guys earlier, is very unusual because it comes almost on a curve which comes into Wilmer. So all of us residents on Livingston are on the same street as the Black Horse Tavern of that establishment. I have brought pictures again to show you I left my house today at 5:45, and here's pictures of literally people parked in the middle of the road, literally. Now, the problem lies, and respectfully to the residents who live on Wellmore, I totally understand their situation. I mean, again, it's a unique situation, the way that our road comes around. However, again, the other problem lines in, on the round of the road, people park, and that is Wilmer. So I don't know what the solution is to that problem, but we need to find one, because it's people, you know, everyone has cones up, okay, to keep these people from parking there. And again, respectfully, because our children play in the yards, Fran's grandson plays in the yard, and people will park there. And as soon as those cones are removed, people park there. So again, I don't know what the solution is to Wilmore. However, I do know that people should not be able to park on the rounds. And I brought another picture to show you. Right from where the church is, the road is extremely narrow. So when people park on the round, you visually cannot see coming up Wilmer, coming around that turn, either direction. Either direction. And the cones do not make it any easier to see. You have to stop. If someone was walking there, they would get hit. Children would get hit. So again, I respectfully understand Wilmer's decision where they are, so I don't know what the solution is to that, but I can say, as well as many other people on Livingston, we need to find out something that we need to do. So.
If I could ask a question.
Hang on, just a minute.
It is.
She's the one that's basically pushing this. Just a question.
No, I'm not. Most of the residents are in Livingston as well.
But just, the way this amendment is worded, zoning amendment, is that apparently parking is prohibited, period, on the street, which means both sides could.
Now you're saying, or no?
No, that's the way this is worded. That's the way this is. So should we change this to one side, or would that work? Or what?
Well, I guess that's what all of us are here to decide.
Just a minute,
together,
sir,
what is the
just a
best,
minute.
Yes, is what we should do. I mean, the church is also there, so I don't know what those residents would, you know, what they would like to say as well towards that.
Hang on a minute. Sir, you were next.
I think we could probably, my name's Edward Lee. We could probably work this out, you know, neighborly, because like Fran, Neil, and I who spoke earlier, we pretty much have the first 3 residences on Wilmer Avenue. So after that, that's where the bad turn kind of comes in. So maybe it could be no parking at some point after the entrance of the, you know, the church and whatnot. I mean, somehow work something out so, you know, we can still park in front of our houses like we have for the past 20-some years.
Because you're not really near the area where they're confronted with all
Not
these
really.
people illegally parking.
It's a very odd situation. It does like a 90 almost, and it's Livingston and Pot House together. Yeah.
Yeah, where does?
Hang on.
Can I make a suggestion?
Just a minute.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Bill?
You're welcome.
If I may just jump in here. To
Hang on just a minute, please.
To add to the confusion. The advertisement is specifically for
Hang on.
the name of 2 streets and the sides of the streets and the specific locations. They're identified in the advertisement, all right? Under the law, you can't add to that. You can, enact less because you're not changing that part which is not changed. However, I hear from the neighbors that there might be a solution where they all get together and decide among themselves which area they want. Perhaps someone will draw a plan with locations of where the neighbors would like to have these no parking signs. If everybody agrees, then you're not put to the burden of making a difficult decision. So it's a suggestion. If you'd like to do that, if not, you can vote on this or you can reduce this. You can't add this.
Hang on just a minute.
That's all.
please.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Now, ma'am.
I really like my neighbors. I don't know some of you very well, but I like my neighbors. Like I told you in the last meeting, I was there 37 and a half years, and Ellen has been there for 40. So it's been a very quiet, very... Oh, I'm sorry, Bambi Saponsky. I apologize. Anyway, I think we can maybe settle this tonight because I understand where the people in the lower end of Wilmer are coming from, okay? The problem really does lie, and I really resent the fact, Mr. Morrison, that you mentioned that Rose was, you kind of made her feel like she was the under a conspiracy to push this through herself, and you are absolutely wrong. And I resent the fact that you are speaking about my neighbor like that. Anyway, I think we probably could resolve this tonight. I don't know if we neighbors need to get together. I understand what Fran's saying, and I think Pastor Jack should speak as well. My thought is, because we've discussed this, you know, we didn't just leave this meeting and go home and wait for today. And I don't understand why they ever made the road the way they made it, other than I know that my driveway used to be an access to a farmland before that development was built behind us. Anyway, so I don't know why the road is the way it is. Who knows? To me, it's one road. But in chatting with other neighbors and in understanding, you know, Fran and the other neighbors' concerns about signs being on their part of the road, what I would suggest is that Livingston is the real problem issue with the curve. And my driveway, where you see that curve in that picture, if it was icy, and I'm not saying it's ever that much icy, but if it would be icy and somebody's parked there, my driveway comes right out there, and I could just slide right on over and hit who's ever parked on that bend. That's how close it is.
Wow.
So what I'm thinking, and others of us have chatted briefly, is to put no parking signs this side of the road and no parking signs this side of the road on Livingston. Like put 2 on one side, 2 on the other. That takes care of Livingston. If the other folks on Wilmer are in agreement to it, because I can appreciate that they're not involved down that low with the bar, to put the no parking sign on this side of the road, put 2 on Wilmer, but put them on the church's side so that nobody will park on that curb. That would be my suggestion, and then that way Fran and everybody on Wilmer is good to go. And then if something happens, Fran, where you end up with a problem, then we could revisit that if you decide that, hey, all of a sudden your side's getting jammed up and you, in fact, want the signs in the future.
Well, we can't revisit this,
Okay.
can we?
No. Okay,
Well, whatever.
sum it up, please.
But thank you so much for listening.
Okay.
Thank you for laying out an idea that involves consensus. I appreciate that.
Ellen Stroh, 1007 Livingston Avenue. I've been a township resident for 40 years. It's been peaceful, quiet, residential community until that bar moved in across the street. I have personally had thousands of dollars of property destruction in my house because of the way they have tried to park. And I won't even go into the litter and the trash and the obscene behavior that goes on there at night. But the parking parking ban on Livingston, and I agree with Bambi that the folks on the other end should not be subject to restrictions on their own personal parking because the bar patrons are not controlled and because they park wherever they feel like it. And I do believe we really need these signs and need to get the cones out of our neighborhood and need to reduce the danger to everyone. I could have had someone killed in front of my house when a drunken bar patron ran into my steps and destroyed my property. So that's what
Thank
I
you,
had to say.
ma'am. Thank you.
I know we have.
Kevin.
Oh, I'm sorry. And come on up, and let me collect my thoughts while you're.
Just very quickly, I'm the other person that lives at 1210 Wilmer, and we were never spoken to about this at all. So it does seem by consensus that Wilmer Avenue should just be removed.
Your name is?
Oh, forgive me, Jean Oliva. That Wilmer Avenue should just be removed from whatever this resolution. But, yeah, we should definitely have been consulted for something. We have nowhere else to park except across the street on Pothouse Road. So we would have, yeah,
Okay.
unless they do the no
Do you have a
parking signs.
driveway to
Yeah.
your home?
Yes, we do. But if we have visitors or anything like that,
Sure.
unless we can park in the church lot can be a problem because it's
What are your
closed
thoughts
off.
in terms of what this lady suggested?
About this, yeah, the stop sign. Livingston is definitely the problem. I feel so badly. It's awful. It's
What are
really
your
awful.
thoughts?
No discussion between each other right now.
I was asking you were you comfortable with the compromise idea of having signs only on one side of Livingston?
On
Of
Livingston.
Wilmer, having to do with the church rather than the residents.
Well, the church already has a lot of signs.
They do.
All along there. Well, not so much about parking on the street, but parking in the lot. There are
Okay.
about 10 signs. A
All right.
lot. To not park in the church lot.
Sounds like it's a real
Hang
problem.
on just a minute.
It's a bit of a problem.
May I? Yeah, I'm just, the problem here is advertising. There are required procedures for the enactment of ordinances, and I'm not comfortable with a last-minute change at the moment of enactment. Now, there is a provision in the law that says that if you advertise 2 pieces of legislation and you decide only to pass one of them, you don't have to pass them both. So, you know, it might be possible to strike one of these streets and not the other, but if we're gonna start thinking about, you know, changing the distances or modifying where the signs are gonna go or that, I would suggest that we start again, re-advertise with something that's precise, because if the police have to issue a, you know, a citation for improper parking, you know, the defendant or the lawyer's gonna wanna see the ordinance, and if it's not exact and precise and correct, then we have a problem.
I happen
Yeah,
to
I
agree
agree.
with that, Bill.
I do too.
And I cannot speak
think
to
we
any
all
of the
do want that.
details of it because this
I feel that.
letter was the first anybody on Wilmer heard about this.
Hang on, gentlemen.
I think what we need to do, and I know we want to get solve your issues and solve your issues. And I think we should just table it for now, get everybody together, also with your concerns of what's happening as they leave the bar, which is an issue. It's a big issue, especially if they're hitting things and stuff like that. That we get, you can go sit down. Thank you.
All right.
That we get the police involved, and Chief is back there, and he'd be happy to sit with the meeting, that we all come and we sit down and we have a discussion, and then we figure out where on the street you want to do the no parking. We know Livingston Avenue is a no parking.
The compromise is easy, just remove the south.
Hang on, come up to, please.
The compromise is easy. If you can remove something without advertising it, just remove the south side of Wilmer. Because the north direction is where the church is.
But we
The
have to
3
put-
houses that are there are facing the south direction.
Okay, so then I'm looking here on the Google's map. I see 3 houses here, 1, 2, from West Pothouse Road. I
Up
got
to
1,
the
2,
curb.
3 houses in.
Correct.
What is that address on the 3rd house?
The third house, 1216.
1216.
That's mine.
I'm
So-
1214 in the middle, 1210 is Ed on the corner.
Okay,
of
so
Pothouse.
everything from, it's south
That's
of that-
southbound.
South or north?
That's southbound.
Yeah, it says southbound. So that next house over next to you is what number?
Next to Francis,
No,
would be Rose on the corner.
Wilmer.
She's Livingston.
Okay.
No, I'm Livingston.
Yeah,
But I'm
she's
kind of
okay.
like on Wilmer.
Hang on.
Okay.
She's got 2 driveways.
Oh,
I am kind of, my house sits, my address is Livingston Road, but it kind of sits on the bend of Livingston. But everyone on both of our streets has off-street parking. We all have driveways. On Wilmore, they all have driveways. We all have driveways. Everyone does. But I believe that we were told that the island, or whatever you want to call it, the round is what I call it, they could not put a sign there saying no parking where the church is located. Is that correct?
I didn't hear that.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, if you can, that'd be great. I mean, that would solve all the problems, really. So,
Yeah, Bill, I have a question based on the legalities. At this point, can we make changes to the advertising based on the specificity
Well,
of the addresses given?
No, you can't go into the addresses. You just can't do that.
So we
And
have to table it.
I think we'd have to table it and then be precise about where it's gonna go.
That's
You
what I
can't
was
say
gonna-
up to this point or that point, it wasn't advertised that way.
I was going to recommend that we table it, and then I'd like to appoint Kevin to get together with the people concerned and come up with the right answers of what street and where the signs were, and bring it up for our next meeting.
I second that motion. You okay with that?
Okay.
I
Mhm.
am.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you.
All in favor of that?
Thank
Okay. Thank you, everybody, thank you.
Discussion and communication of good things.
All right, the next item is the, all right, talk outside, please. Thank you, everybody. All right, the next item is the motion to advertise ordinance 2016-03, amending the definition of yard in the zoning ordinance to include retaining walls.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Just a comment on it. We had a little back and forth in the planning commission on this one, and I'm okay with the way it's been shaped.
Okay, well, let's go ahead with, it's been
The lady has her hand
motion?
raised.
Yes? You have something on this?
I have a question about it.
Oh, okay, yes, ma'am.
My name is Billy Tress. I have a question about this. Amending the definition of yard to include retaining walls. Is it envisioned that this would also include, that this ordinance would also include any retaining walls that might potentially be foisted upon a homeowner as a consequence of road revisions, sidewalks, things that they did not elect to have?
No, I think
No.
the reason why this came up is that we actually had a few residents that wanted to put a retaining wall into their yards, and it wasn't within the,
Wasn't within the side yard setback.
right.
Yes. And well, the residents were looking to do some improvements on their property in the rear yards. And in order to do those improvements, whether it was a patio expansion or something like that, they needed to install a retaining wall in the side yard. And the ordinance reads that structures are not permitted in any yard, in a side yard or a front yard or a rear yard. And a retaining wall is considered a structure. So what that would have meant is, in order to install that retaining wall to accommodate a patio expansion or a swimming pool in the backyard, whatever the case might be, that resident would have to come to the zoning hearing board and then get zoning relief, get a variance
Maybe.
approval.
Maybe.
Possibly, they would have to petition the zoning hearing board to hopefully get the relief that they needed to install that wall.
Okay. Now, I was concerned about something that might be, foisted on a property owner as a consequence of something that they didn't elect to have or select to do themselves.
Right.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
I'm sure. Okay, the motion's
It's a
been
good
made.
question, though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'll second.
It's been, motion is made, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The next item is the motion to advertise ordinance 2016-04 to allow police officers of Schuylkill Township to participate in the Act 44 Deferred Retirement Option Program, which is known as DROP. Kevin, do you have some comments on that?
Do not, that was, it was negotiated in the collective bargaining agreement that we just did 2 years ago. So we're just finalizing it now. No one is eligible for it except for one person, and he's sitting in this room.
Okay.
But
We hope he doesn't make use of it anytime soon.
Chief has been here for 37 years.
Is it really that long? Wow.
That's a
police
How could that be when you're only 30?
Hey, you
See,
hire
with
him
this
up?
job, it keeps you young. See, this job keeps you young.
Well, I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Let me make a comment here.
Sure, Jim.
Our solicitor has a number of questions about this.
Well, I've gone through it. We have special counsel, John McLaughlin from Ballard Spar, who is our expert on pensions. And there are, I confess, some things about drop I don't understand. I've been assured in 8 different ways that it will not affect the township financially. And that's my main concern. I don't care when or how they get their pensions, as long as we don't have to pay more for it.
That's right.
And McLaughlin has assured me of that. And, so that's my concern.
So you're comfortable with it?
Excuse me, so your question, the things that you brought up in your letter, have they been basically answered by?
For the most part, yeah, by
Yes.
McLaughlin, and I spoke with Kevin at some length about it when we met here the other day, and so I, to cover myself, I'm relying on McLaughlin, but, I think it'll be all right.
I'm relying on Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't want to spend money when I don't have to.
Right.
motion's been made, been second?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. The item, motion to advertise ordinance 2016-05, adopting the Phoenixville Regional Intergovernmental Cooperative Implementation Agreement for Regional Planning.
I make a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
Now, are we sure this is it?
Well, I
We did this
understand that.
before.
No.
All right, we've
Well,
got,
we
hey, we
have
had the
to do
motion.
this.
Do we hear a second?
Yes.
I did, I second.
Kevin.
Okay, then discussion. This is not the Regional Comprehensive Plan, is that correct?
Right. This is, we need to approve this.
I understand that.
So the Third Comp Planning and Design can go forward with a grant to Chester County to receive a huge majority funding to, would be a period of approximately 2 years to create a regional comprehensive plan. So it's, the other townships have, municipalities, our planning commission has recommended that we approve this, and represented, 2 of them are here this evening. So I think it's really procedural more than anything at this point in time.
I hope it's only procedural, because I have a number of questions.
I know you do.
And the only reason that I will go ahead and vote for it is because the planning commission has met and they approved it. If they hadn't approved it, I doubt if I would even accept it. I have a lot of questions. So anyhow, we had a motion, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye. And I will note, Fred, that several members of our planning commission were at the Regional Planning Commission this month, and they
Well, I was
asked
there too, so.
pertinent pertinent questions appropriately.
I'm surprised there's some of the questions that they didn't ask. Okay, the motion's been passed. Thank you, everybody. Subdivision land development. The Mortimer Sparhawk 2-lot subdivision escrow release number 2 in the amount of $14,943.50. John, do you
Yes,
have
sir.
any comments on that?
Just that this is pretty much standard protocol here. The developer has completed the site improvements that were escrowed for, and they've asked for release of the escrow monies that were held for those improvements. This is our letter of recommendation, recommending that you consider approving that release. They still owe the as-built plans and the as-built stormwater management calculations, and there are sufficient funds held back for that.
Okay.
That's the $3,300.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, that sounds
Make that
good.
motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Is there any additional business? Hang on. Hang on, folks. Okay, no additional business.
There's a gentleman who's been very
I was going to
patient.
do it on public participation.
Oh, okay.
I'm following my agenda, okay?
Sorry, Fred.
If that's okay,
Jumping the gun.
if
I'm
you
sorry,
want to
Fred.
run it,
I'm sorry. No, you can run it. I jumped the gun. My bad.
We did.
We did.
Public participation, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Hello all, my name is Marcus Bloodworth, and this is my
Sure.
wife Heather. We're new to the area. We've been here for since December.
How long? I'm sorry?
December the 15th.
Welcome.
So, thanks.
What's your address?
We're at 3 Mountain View Lane. And many of you have heard the issue that we're bringing to the board today already. Mr. Chairman, first of all, thanks for the opportunity to voice our concerns. We're here about a specific issue impacting our safety. As new residents, and this issue also impacts our neighbors at 2 Mountain View Lane. Another neighbor who's adjacent to our property has built a fence, and his fence has insufficient room for egress for us to move through with our automobiles safely, and also to have access to emergency services. When he built the fence, I originally went out just to park my car and see if I could get through it because it was so tight. And I can get through the fence, but the problem is, as soon as any snowfall hits, I'm gonna have issues making a plow come through. And if anything emergency-wise happens, if there's a fire during one of our new barbecues when we invite people over, or something were to happen with our neighbors, then the fire chief for Valley Forge came out today, and he said that there would definitely be an issue with the fence where it was built. This fence was not built with a permit. It's an unpermitted fence. And I went and spoke to the neighbors directly, and I asked them if they could move the fence back about 5 feet, and that would give us enough clearance to get through, and it would also address all the issues they have for building a fence in the first place. I haven't heard anything. Kim Yoakum, we've been speaking with her. She's taken lead on sending out the different correspondence to our neighbors to let them know the fence was built without a permit, it must be removed. And also, I went to them to explain to them the safety concerns that I have. I work in government for the Navy, and I deal with a lot of safety issues. So that was literally the first thing that I saw. This is not an issue about a fence being built that's unsightly, or a fence that's being built that is impeding, or we just don't want it there. It has more to do with our safety, and we definitely understand why our neighbors would want a fence.
Okay.
Fred, I'd like to address the gentleman's concern for the basis of transparency. I've known your neighbor for quite a long time, and he actually came to my home a couple of weeks ago on a Sunday morning at 9:30, showed me various papers and such, and I suggested to Kim, because I didn't want to just hear one side of an issue without hearing the other side, as much as I respect him and know him. And I suggested that you and your neighbor get together to work this out. He had indicated to me, and as I said, this is what was shared with me by this gentleman, that the fence was there for 30 years and he was making improvements and fixing it. That's why I felt he was concerned, because he didn't want to have to go to the zoning hearing board.
Right.
So I felt, as the people here between Livingston and Wilmer started talking with each other and working out a difference of opinion about where the sign should go, it was my suggestion to Kim that you and your neighbor find a way to communicate so we all find out what the facts really are.
Excuse me, just for a second here. Regardless of whether it's a repair or a replacement, shouldn't he still have gotten a permit?
He still needed a permit.
And he didn't.
Was he made aware that he needed
Yes,
a permit?
Kim made
He's been
him
here for
aware
30
that he
years,
needed a
correct?
permit. And his wanting to avoid zoning hearing board, it makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Okay.
Just add to the conversation here. I actually went up and took a look at the fence, drove down the lane, and then, so I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, I've seen it. Not very long. It's maybe from here to the window over there, the exit sign. It's not a long fence. It's not a big deal. I tried to turn around. I couldn't. And I had to go down to your place to turn around.
Right. And we've had problems with deliveries. Our packages are being sent. I get very secure level packages from the government sent to my home, and I don't want them delivered at another house, let alone my Amazon purchases for PlayStation games, whatever it may be.
Thank you. I appreciate your coming to our meeting this night so I could hear
Right,
this.
and I'm glad that you offer the transparency, but my contention is this is a safety issue. There's going to be no movement involved in any appeasement that can be made for this fence based off
Well, they
of,
can't.
solely off of the fact
Couldn't even
that
get a fire
the
truck
fire
in there.
department has come to my house and told me if I have an issue, they're going to have to waste precious time getting to me to remove
Yep.
the fence.
Yeah, I think he needs to understand the ramifications appropriately.
Got it.
Here you are.
Has Kim spoken to Mr. Keller?
Thank you.
No,
very much.
letters have been written to him, and he has ignored everything.
So what would,
To the point where there's a citation process.
okay, so Bill, can you,
Just a couple of things if I can.
okay.
Please.
The first thing is, in general, and I've spoken to Mr. Bloodworth, I believe, I tried to find this place and I couldn't. But, generally speaking, the township doesn't get involved in property disputes about where the line is. So, do we know whether this fence is on his property or somebody else's property or in the right-of-way? Just,
Yes.
We have the aerial
Here's
views.
an aerial view of the property here.
all right,
And
but
this was taken in 2014. And here, if you're looking at this curve here, this is where the fence is. It's right at the tip of this curve as you're going.
is it on his property?
No, it's on
No,
our
that
property.
line says that
We
it's on
own
our
the road,
All right,
and the
but-
fence was actually built on the road.
Okay, well, let me just focus a little, okay? Generally speaking, disputes about property are private.
Sure,
Okay,
understand,
Now, it gets
understand.
into a different realm, however, when you talk about safety and about fences. And I understand from Kim that a zoning code enforcement notice was sent under the MPC to Mr. Cowler. When that happens, Mr. Cowler has 30 days to correct the deficiency, or he is subjected to citations issued by the code enforcement officer for which there's no defense. The law says if you don't take the option to go to the zoning hearing board, then you waive your defenses. So, the first question is he on his own property or not? That's not for us, but in terms of whether the fence was put up without a permit, and whether there's a safety violation, then Mr. Cowler has a legal problem. Now, as you also know, the board does not tell the code enforcement officer what to do. It's appropriate to advise him that there's been, well, he sent the notice. So he knows 30 days have run. It's my understanding that in general, when that happens, he'll send a notice of citation out, and there'll be a hearing.
Yeah.
Right.
When
To
I
be
was
fair,
up,
let
when
me
I,
just-
excuse me, when I was up there, I looked at the situation, and I looked behind the fence. It's relatively level. There, it's grass, basically. It goes for 100, maybe 200 feet, and then starts to slope down a bit. He's got plenty of room to
There's
move that
plenty of
back.
room.
Yeah.
Well, and if I may, we moved in again December 15th. Our neighbors are here that live at 2 Mountain View, and they were away in Florida. And so we were stuck in the storm for a few days, and it was new. Like, we're new to the mountain. We're so excited to live here. The fence was put up at the beginning of March before our neighbors returned from Florida. We notified the township mid-March. The letter was sent to Mr. Kaler at the end of March. That 30 days has come and gone as far as when he was notified. And with all due respect, to you, Barbara, he wasn't honest with you. And as new neighbors, hopefully you want people moving into the neighborhood, that if we get new neighbors, we're gonna go greet them. We're gonna welcome them to the neighborhood. We were never approached, again, until a government package went to their house, did Marcus go down. And I was actually fearful. I said, don't go down, because we don't know who they are. And I thought a person who would do this, it's clear to him that we have 2 homes that use that road. We own the road and that access our homes, that someone would put us in danger and not think beyond that. And now this is 3 months.
Well,
And we implore you to please to take action and ask them to remove this fence, because if something were to happen, we really feel unsafe.
Right. And to be fair, and I'm not taking sides at all, and what I do respect is your patience in waiting to the end of the meeting to share the issues that you've just shared. It's very enlightening for me. What he shared with me is that, as he stated, that the fence had been there for a very, very long time, and he was repairing it, and that it was on his property, that there was something about the where the roadway was put in that was also on his property. That's why I
And
wanted.
again, I just want to say, we don't know him,
Right.
but he lied. Because when we moved in December 15th,
Right.
that fence was not there. We literally left at the beginning of March. We left one day for work, and we came home, and that fence was there. There was no permit posted, there was nothing. And so our neighbors at 1 Mountain View Lane were there. And then he put a post on the side of the road with a keypad to access the gate, never talking to anybody on the road. So we thought, why would he do
Wow.
that? So,
Mary-
and he lied about the fence being up because the aerial shots that we shared with you, there's no fence on those shots. And our neighbors, again, can come up and they can share. They've lived there for almost 20 years. The fence was not up.
I'm sorry I
So
didn't
what would
bring
our
the
next
paperwork
steps
that he
be?
gave me, because on there, it showed his property line. And I would like our engineer and our solicitor to determine objectively where exactly what. And he did show me a picture of a very old fence. Maybe that got taken out, but he's been there quite a while. The question is talking to each other and resolving the fact that you need to receive what you need to receive, and he has issues with whatever. It's a way of talking to each other to resolve it.
I think
So
they
what's
already
our-
have done,
what's
I think
our
they,
next step, Mary?
I think they've already done that, and that's why they're bringing it to us.
Yes.
Mr.
All
Cowers'
right,
30
just a minute,
days-
please.
Mr. Cowers' 30 days are up
Okay,
from the letter. We will start the citations on him.
okay,
He has lost his window to go to the zoning hearing board. He has lost his windows to plead his case, so to speak.
okay,
So we're now into the citation mode with him.
okay. So, and then as far as getting safety access, it sounds like if they have a fire in their house tomorrow, we're not gonna be able to get in there. So can we remove this as quickly as possible?
Hang on, one at a time.
Can I answer?
Please.
Okay.
All right. If the board would authorize and direct a civil action for an injunction, we could probably do that, but you're looking at $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to get all that ready to go with emergency papers, et cetera. The injunction might be denied because there's no immediate. Now, I understand about the fire trucks, but I think it's easier and better to cite him. It's $500 a day. Normally, it's 1 day they cite him for because we're not out to punish our residents. However, if he doesn't appear at the hearing or doesn't pay the citation, then he can be cited for $500 a day, and that normally gets the residents' attention. And at that point, at some point, if he doesn't remove it then we can go for an injunction. But it's premature to spend that money now
Okay.
when the usual hammer is the citation.
Okay.
Haven't we sent the citation?
So if he were to get the initial citation, hopefully he would say, oh crap, I shouldn't have put this up, I need to take it
Well,
down.
there's another issue that we haven't nailed down here. I mean, no one has come in with deeds and plans and
Right.
surveys to indicate where this
Exactly.
thing is.
Yeah.
Now, it's possible that it's on his property, which will complicate things. I don't know anything about it, but all I can tell you is for 40 years of doing this, we're only hearing one side tonight. He could be here, he's not.
Can I
It's
speak to
possible-
that?
just a moment. It's
Okay.
possible the fence is on his property. Now, that doesn't end the issue, because if there's a road that's being blocked, even if the fence is on his property, you have a legal argument that he's gotta move it. So all I'm saying is, it's not cut and dried, and there's a possibility that, it's called the left field rule. Stuff comes out of left field. But based on what we see so far, we think a citation is appropriate.
Okay.
Okay, hang on. Yes,
So,
sir.
I don't want to really prolong this. I appreciate your time, and I know it's late, but my name is Lee Olszewski, and I live on 2 Mountain View next to the Bloodworths, my wife Marie and I. We've lived there for 18 and a half years. And with all due respect to your friendship with Mr. Kaler, he lied to you. There was no fence there. There was a fence there, more than 10 years ago. There was a small piece of a fence. It wasn't in the location where this fence is blocking access to our road. There was a small decrepit, when we moved there 18 and a half years ago, there was a small piece of a decrepit fence further down the road, away from the curve which is being constricted. At that time, he actually accused our neighbor, who used to live in the Bloodworth's house, that it was his fence, and he wanted them to do something about this fence, which now he claims is on it. Now he claims was his fence, which hasn't been there for many, many years.
Well,
So that's a bunch of nonsense. Whatever he told you is not true. I can tell you that.
Thank you. As I said, I like to be transparent. I only got one side of
I
the
understand
story.
that. Well, we're giving you the other side. The other thing is, that road, when we moved there 18 and a half years ago, that road was where it is now. That road was in a poor state of repair. Our neighbor who used to live in Three Mountain View told us it hadn't been repaired in 15 years. When we moved there, we had it repaired. The point of this is that that road has been there for significantly longer than 18 years, for longer than 21 years. I'm not a legal expert, but I know in Pennsylvania there's such a thing as a restrictive easement, which says that even if this is on somebody else's property, if you've used it for more than 21 years, you have a right to use that road. That road has been there for easily 30 years or more. Now, after all that time, our kind neighbor decides he's going to put a fence right smack dab next to the road so we can't even get around the curve. And so I'm not saying that we shouldn't have property lines well-defined or whatever, but I'm just pointing out that this road has been there for a very long time, exactly where it is now, and all of a sudden, someone decides to put a fence blocking access. It just
Again, thank you for coming, and thank you very much for your patience in explaining things.
Hang on.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
It sounds to me like basically Mr. Kaler was just not thinking about the location. And he might, this is conjecture, he might have just turned it over to a contractor and, a couple of feet makes a difference.
Well, that may be, but I guess we're frustrated because of Mr. Keller's basic ignorance. He's ignoring all the
Yeah, he seems to be ignoring us as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm referring to. He's ignoring you. Yeah. And so we're a little frustrated because we have no
I know he
power to do
had
anything
called
about
me
it.
and he had been away, and I called him back and he said, "Can I come over Sunday morning?" I was like, "Okay." So that was, 2 weeks ago, I think. And I met with him because he does travel because of his daughter's sports activities.
Well, it sounds like we're moving forward with this in the legal way and following the process the way we should.
Is it in Kim's hands?
I understand your frustration with time, but I think we need to let this process follow.
It has to play out.
It has to play out. It really does.
We understand, but there are safety issues too. So
And we're aware of that too. And I'm glad that you guys spoke to our fire department and they're aware of them as well.
Well, if I could, I guess we don't see the reason for a meeting. Why would we meet with him at this point in time?
It doesn't sound like you need to.
And we talked, based on the recommendation, you said to come to the township meeting. So we said we'd come here, but an individual meeting, again, we didn't need a mediator. We needed our neighbor to come over and say, "Hi,
He showed me a line
your
on
neighbor."
a piece of paper.
No, I'm just saying, we needed our neighbor to come over and say, "Hi, I'm your neighbor. Yeah, I see you just moved in. Hey, I'm thinking about this fence. Oh, great. Can you just build it back a little bit?" That wouldn't have been a problem. So again, we don't feel that there's a need for the meeting. We just really implore you to please help move this along, because we just feel like, what do we do? And it is on our road, which is our property. So, and again, we could determine that more legally, but we'll respectfully follow the process of whatever you recommend. We just don't want that fence there all summer. So we hope we're not here in another month saying, "Hey, this still hasn't been addressed."
All right, we've
We're
heard.
hoping you won't be here in another month asking the same thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, but we're going to take action on it, okay? All right. Mr. McCurry?
Peter Mercury, President Pickering Glen Homeowners Association. I'm really getting tired of coming here with issues pertaining to the school. District project. But I just wish that you would have given us, or given time, maybe an extra month, to talk about the issues that are still in front of us. But the Schuylkill Township has allowed the Phoenixville Area School District to destroy the Pickering Glen front entrance and its beautiful landscaping. They told us that they would install decorative light posts. Didn't happen. The ones they have installed are ugly and look like they came out of World War II. Have you seen them, Mr. Morrison?
No.
Have you gone to see them? Maybe you should. I think everybody should. I think you should all go and take a look at those ugly-looking light posts, okay, that they told us that they were going to get us decorative light posts, all right? Now they've launched a fund campaign to rename the street entrance, you know, making a game out of it while our neighborhood is threatened with more dangerous traffic, okay? They're trying to rename the street that's already named a Pothouse Street, and saying that the post office has informed them that they need to change it.
Why?
They're
Okay.
not changing Pothouse Road.
They're changing
They're
their
not changing
address.
Pothouse Road.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because that would be a problem.
May I, they're naming the driveway into the school. Their address would be the driveway name and the address.
It's Pothouse Road right now.
And when they put their driveway in, the driveway into the school, they can change the address to whatever they're naming that driveway.
It's like that road that goes off of 29.
Why do they need to change it from Pothouse?
It's not Pothouse.
It is, it's 102 Pothouse Road. They named it 102 Pothouse Road.
But the driveway is the road that they're changing, that they're adding, and they're putting the name on. It's like Purple Pride Way or whatever it's called.
Right.
I mean, they're just
They're not
naming
changing
it, they're just
Pothouse.
naming
They're
a
not
driveway.
changing
Well, anyway, you seem to, you know, don't understand that it could be confusing to drivers, okay? And they could, you know, possibly turn around in our development. Again, you know, you're siding with the school district. That's fine. That's your prerogative, okay? And now they want our kids crossing the 5-lane intersection and telling us that it's safe. But no worries. You, Schuylkill Township, I guess, have agreed to pay half of for crossing guards. Is that correct?
We're not paying for crossing.
Okay, well, yeah, I've been to 2 meetings, and the superintendent is saying that that you guys are going to be paying 50% for the crossing guards.
No.
Okay, well,
Crossing guards.
okay. I'm just telling you.
Not
Be
in our budget.
prepared. Be prepared, okay? And it's supposed to be safe for the kids, right? 5 lanes. And, you know, I won't say, you know, what I wanted to say. But anyway, Mr. Sartor, you and Gilmore and Associates were a little off on your plans. The space that the school district chopped off our island was not 7 feet, it was 15 feet, okay? And it also took down 3 trees, which brought it back to 20 feet.
Mr. Mercury,
All right?
we didn't do the plans, we didn't prepare the plans. Plans were prepared by the traffic engineering consultant for the school district. They were reviewed by PennDOT, and they were approved by PennDOT.
Okay?
Okay?
Did you not have a letter out to someone with saying
The
that?
plans went through multiple revisions.
Okay,
Mr. Mercury.
all right, good, good. All right. They put the 2 light posts in the middle of our landscaping and our sprinkler system. Is that Pulte's fault that they put the middle of the landscaping in the entrance? In our entrance, both sides of the entrance have 2 big lampposts in it, right? The PennDOT right-of-way. Did the builder have the okay to build and build that structure in the PennDOT right-of-way?
Yeah.
Whose idea was that?
Whose idea was that?
Yeah.
I don't know whose idea that was. If it was built in the PennDOT right-of-way, it was approved by PennDOT.
It was approved by PennDOT.
Yes.
Did you look at the plans?
We were not reviewing the plans for what was proposed in the PennDOT right-of-way. That is in PennDOT's jurisdiction.
But you were able to make the, I guess, clarification that it would be unsafe to take off maybe 7 feet without redoing the whole trail, right?
I really don't know what you're talking about, Pete.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I'd
Okay.
have to look at the plans.
All right. You allowed the school district to sign an agreement with the Levins. We had no discussions about your public right-of-way on the Levin property. The township threatened our homeowners with liens on our house, liens on our houses if we didn't take care of the trail. Unfortunately, we found out too late that the Levins owned the property, a la the access road that you allowed the school district to construct. The trail is going to be realigned on the PennDOT right-of-way. Who's going to maintain it? Who's going to maintain the trail on the Levin property? You've suggested that Pulte lied. You know that they lied. You know that they lied, okay? We're not going to play by your rules anymore. The Colquitt have no rules. The Levins have no rules. Why should we listen to you anymore? You continue to make deals and do not protect the people that help pay your bills. We're the taxpayers. Why should we listen to you anymore?
Okay.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Pete, but thank you. Okay.
Do you know what he talked about? Anybody else know?
I make a motion that we go into executive
No.
session.
Anybody else, any other participation? Any other comments?
Second
All
motion.
right. Meeting adjourned, going into executive session, 2 minutes. I would like to move back into the Board of Supervisors meeting that we went over the litigation and personnel issues. And I would like to make a motion to accept the collective bargaining agreement between Schuylkill Township and Schuylkill Township Police Association.
I make that motion?
No, you said second.
Okay,
He made the motion.
Oh, I second. Thank you.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Taking advice that we can't adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion to
Second.
adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
All right, I'm going to bed.